Today in Budapest, three major international organizations on freedom of speech issued a joint declaration on the freedom of expression and the internet.
The special rapporteurs have been issuing these joint declarations since 1999. Each year the declarations focus on a different thematic issue, and as Ilya mentioned, this year the focus is on freedom of expression and the internet.
Internet is clearly one of the most important technological developments in communication. In recent events in the north of Africa and in some of the Arab countries have shown us how powerful internet can become in terms of denouncing corruption, denouncing human rights violations, or convening, congregating, and assembling the population or to organize peaceful demonstrations. We find that in the world, politicians are getting scared and precisely are trying to regulate and limit the use of internet in terms of exacerbating or overgrowing the regulatory feeling of this. I could say that obviously in many other countries that I find, especially in East Asia, a growth of the use of defamation against public officials as criminal limitation or the chilling effect. In Hungary itself, the recent regulations on telecommunications and on communication with an authority, a communications authority that is not truly independent, we believe is a setback.
The governments are introducing very vague laws overnight without any public consultations.
So we see this declaration as being extremely important because it now sends a message out to governments and companies and users around the world. These are the baseline rights that have to be followed. They can no longer be ignored.
We accept, for example, that limitations should be prescribed by law, should be necessary to prevent crime and to protect the rights of others, such as the rights of children. And the limitations should comply with international standards. We feel strongly that the regulation that applies to other forms of communication, such as broadcasting, cannot simply be applied to the internet. Specific regulations have to be developed for the internet, and we advocate for self-regulation.
The general principle of freedom of expression, and basically applied in internet, is the openness, the freedom in which information should flow. And the limitation should be considered the exception.
Is there any specific internet freedom issues in Africa in contrast with Europe or other parts of the world?
I think in Africa we're still struggling with issues of access. You know, the infrastructure in Africa is very poor, and many people do not have access.
What's the general purpose of such a joint declaration? Do you think is it an important instrument for civil society to use it as a reference point?
This declaration is the first real authoritative standard-setting statement. Lots of people are saying things, but that doesn't have much weight in international law. But this kind of declaration does.
The specificity of these tendencies I see, especially in the post-Soviet space, in equaling the internet regulation field, internet governance, with their general and already quite restrictive speech regulations. The applying of the usual regulatory stuff unavoidably arbitrary, unavoidably selective, unavoidably only politically applicable, because the nature of those authorities is political. If you are not ready to go along the way to the very end of it, carving out totally national, bombing back the global network into national territorial spaces with firewalls like the great Chinese firewalls or the Iranian firewalls. If you are politically not ready, if you are technologically not ready for that, if you are not powerful enough politically for that, then please give up.
Any attempt to regulate and to block internet in form of censorship by the governments is simply a lost battle. History taught us that no matter in which circumstances and in whichever time, people always found a way to access the rights that were denied to them.